Let's talk a little bit about recognition. I'm going to tell you, I've told you what to do, now I'm going to tell you how to do it. You know, these PhDs, they come in, they talk to y'all, they say that stands for post hole digger. Now, I'm just kidding you. I wish I had one, I'm just kidding you. They tell you all this stuff, and they leave you hanging up there. They don't tell you how. So right now, we're going to talk about how. Recognition. First thing I want you to know, everybody likes it. Everybody likes attention. Everybody won't admit it, but everybody likes attention. 42 years I worked on the shop floor, y'all. Almost every disturbance and disruption that I ever saw, almost every one of them wasn't a thing in the world but a cry for attention. Somebody wanting what they didn't have when they was 10. Pay me a little bit more attention, supervisor, and I won't give you near as much trouble. Before you've been in this place 15 minutes, before you've been on your job 15 minutes every day, managers, I'm talking every shift. Before you've been here 15 minutes, you have cycled your department. You have nodded, smiled, spoken to every one of your employees and recognized their presence just for being here. Don't wait till way over in the day before you look at me. Look at me first thing. This is a jump start. Everybody don't have a self-starter. Oh, he saw me. He's smiling. He must have got some sugar this morning before he left home. That's just one of the things we say about y'all. Call me by my name 2 or 3 times a week, supervisor. Call me by my name. Listen up. When you call me by my name, you're setting me apart from everybody else on the face of this earth. It gives me the one thing I want most. It tells me you appreciate me. How long is this going to take you? Good morning, Mildred. Get a smile on your face, boss. Don't walk in on that job and declare war. Walk in on the job and declare peace. You give up some rights when you went in management. Not the day after you went in, the day that you went in management, you give up some rights. The first right you lost any rights you ever had to bring one of your problems to this job. I can bring mine, but you can't. That's one reason you make more money than I do. You leave your aches and pains and problems and heartaches and all your trouble, you leave this on your doorstep. You set the stage for the day. The boss has got a smile on his face. He got a spring in his step, sparkle in his eye, her eye. Good morning. You set the stage for the day. Speak to me. First thing, your employees expect a friendly greeting from you every day. First thing. Won't cost your company a nickel. A powerful motivator. Got a letter from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'd been out there at a big hospital. I said, Dear Miss Ramsey, the day after you was up here, she said, next morning I went in my department. I cycled this department, I smiled, and I spoke to every one of my workers, and she said, I called them every one by their name. I did this first thing. She said, I had to sit down here and write you this letter. I just want to tell you what a great difference I saw in this department all day long. Thank you for coming and telling me that. Something so simple as this. I was working for the biggest oil company in the world. I was in Wyoming, y'all, and they had have a strip mine that night. After it was over, a young boss walked up. He said, Miss Ramsey, I cannot believe that you have come up here and told us what you did tonight. He said, yesterday morning. I mean, yesterday morning. We took our employees out for a little meeting. And so we asked them, what could we do? That impressed me, y'all. That's the way he said that. So we asked them, what could we do? Was there anything they could think of that they'd like for us to do? Make them feel better about themselves, about us, about the company job, anything. And they said, well, if you just tell us good morning. If you just tell us good morning. He said, we hadn't realized it. But we're going in there every morning, getting everything ready, giving them our orders for the day. You know, it wasn't even saying good morning. Management team, these people are not personnel. They are persons. They expect a friendly greeting from you, and it's a motivator. Won't cost you a penny. I promise you. This right here, this simple as something like this, is what y'all overlooking, and it will motivate you people. The upline managers, your employees expect you to know their name. If you haven't been here long, okay. But if you've been here very long, I don't care how many is out there, you know them, every one. That's your job. If you can't call them by name and speak and smile to them, you stay away from them. Stay out of your office. Just stay in your office. Because they don't want to see you if you can't smile and speak and call them by their name. Girl told me about a little guy that they hired down in her department. Said, there's a row of lights up here, Mildred. If he don't run his job good, these lights. Well, come on. She said, ever since he's been here, this kid's lights nobody's ever seen them on. Oh, she said, it's obvious. Everybody down here, this boy is doing a super job. And said, I asked him one morning, I said, son, has Mr. So-and-so ever said anything to you about the way you run this job? He said, Mr. So-and-so has never spoken to me. Mr. So-and-so went through this department every morning about 8:30, y'all. Not only did he not notice what a good job this kid was doing, hadn't even noticed him. Upline managers, come down off your high horse. This ivory tower management is over. Don't come walking through this plant with these arms crossed. Don't never do that again as long as you live. To us, this is a fighting stance. This says to me, well, what have you done now? Big me, little you, do not disturb. Hands off. Put your hands in your pocket, boss. We're a team here. I'm one of the coaches. Would you like to approach me? Are we a team? Huh? Or not? Say, are we a team? Okay, if we're a team, I should be able to approach any coach I want to. Don't walk through there with your head up in there. Just walk in there. Get down there where the people are at. Get this thing going for you on the shop floor. I promise you it's a motivator. And then recognize your employees' family priorities. If you're my boss and I'm your employee, you ain't number one. You ain't number one. You never will be. There's somebody in my world that comes before you do, and that's my family. If I've got a crisis at home, I won't be there. Don't look for me. Don't jump on me either when I get back. I told y'all I worked 30 years on the midnight shift. I called my boss one night, and I said, Henry, I can't come in tonight. My baby's sick. He said, oh, Mildred, I'm sorry. Is it Dougie or Stevie? I said, I'm sorry, Mildred. He said, is it Dougie or Stevie? He knew my baby's names. Well, when I regained consciousness, I said, well, it's Stevie. He said, well, Mildred, you take good care of that boy, and I know you're going to be back this soon as you can. And if there's anything I can do, let me know. Y'all, I was on the job right there, and I knew he didn't have anybody else that could run it but me. And he knew it. But there wasn't any use for him to say, I hadn't got anybody to run this job. My baby had a temperature of 104, y'all. I wasn't worried about that job. I was worried to death about this child. He very wisely let me keep my priorities straight, and guess what I did? I went the next morning, got a relative to keep that baby. I went back on that job that next night. You know why? He got in this door where my want-to was. My want-to was in here. Knowing my children's names, acting like he cared something about me and my family made me want to go back in there and run that hard job for him. If he jumped on me, I'd have stayed out a week. Management team, listen, your employees love their family exactly the same way you do. If you'll remember this, they'll pay you back in performance. People are funny about their family. So this young mama sent her little boy off to school the first day. She could hardly bear to let him go. Had him all dressed up. Had a little note stuck on his lapel. Said, dear teacher, now Johnny is a special child. If he misbehaved, don't hit Johnny. Hit that kid sitting next to him. This will frighten Johnny and he will straighten up. People funny about their family. You remember that. And they're going to pay you back in performance. Recognize your employees' ordinary efforts. You all have employees who will never do anything extraordinary. They're never going to win any prizes or any awards. These people need recognition too, once in a while. Sometimes these people might be background people, as labor lawyers call them. They might be people who are have some kind of handicap. Maybe somebody overweight, maybe somebody with bad teeth, or somebody didn't get to go to school. But a lot of times these people will cause you more trouble than all the rest of them put together. We had one like this on our job one time when I was working at night. She was overweight, and they laughed at her a lot. She looked bad, but she was always going over the boss's head. She comes sweeping, she's a sweeper. She comes sweeping up to me one night in the plant and said, Mildred, you know the other night when I was out there, had 3 people on my job. Now, don't you know if it takes 3 people to run this job when I'm out, I've got too much to do. You better believe I'm going to go see Mr. Big Boss in the morning. I said, well, Janie, honey, you could sweep this whole plant while all 3 of them sweeps the spare floor. That's a little area in the plant, a small area. She got the brooms, put her shoulders back, and off she went. Did she go see Mr. Big Boss? No. Why? I simply gave her credit for her ordinary abilities. This girl was a good sweeper. She could have swept the whole plant while these three swept the spare floor. But I'm pretty sure I was the first person who ever told her that. And it motivated her socks off. She liked to sweep this mill down that night. Every time I saw her, she looked like she had a little motor going, you know, motivated, got her want to. She walked off that night. I thought, I wonder why management don't use this strategy. You know, managers, when an employee walks up to you wanting to fight or cause trouble, why don't you just turn around and give them credit for what they can do, what they are doing? This stimulates the want to. So recognize the ordinary efforts. When you just remember to do that every once in a while. And then recognize your employees' extra efforts when they do something extra. Now, I was a good weaver, and sometimes they put me on as a troubleshooter. So we had a job one time on curtain material. It was the shears that hang between the draperies. Hard to make. And nobody could run this job and get it right. They stayed in the cloth room all day long trying to find some way to get the defects out of this cloth. Just had one job on it. So one night they put me on this job. I'd been on it about a week, and I looked up one morning, and I saw the plant manager coming down my alley. Girls, he was good looking, had big old blue eyes. We see him coming, you know, we start trying to straighten up. I told him it's too late for me. I'd been working all night. He smelled like even in Paris, and I smelled like morning in Conisty. That's where we took our sewage. He walked right up to me, and he said, Mildred, let me see you start up one of these curtains. Boy, I stopped one off, you know, made a perfect start up. He rubbed it like they do in the plant, in the weave room. He said, they told me up in the cloth room that they could see a difference in this cloth the night that you came on this job. He walked off. He forgot that before he got across the weave room. But I never forgot it. What had he done? He'd taken just a minute of his time. It'd ring in my ears for 30 years. It's been longer than 30 years. I can close my eyes right now and I can see this boss coming down toward me in this plant. He had on a navy blue coat, a light blue shirt, and his tie had some red in it. It's as real to me as if it happened last night. I never forgot it. Recognize your employees' extra efforts when they do something extra, and they'll pay you back in performance. If I could only tell you one thing, it would be this next thing. I feel like this is the guts of my presentation. What's in it for you if you do this? Consider their feelings. Recognize these people's feelings on the job as you have an opportunity, every chance you get. I worked with a guy one time named John. He was a loom fixer. I was a weaver. We worked right together on the same machines years and years. John was always talking about a boss he'd had at another plant. This man was a super boss. This was the greatest boss that ever lived. He said, Mildred, I worked my tail off for this man. Y'all remember that line right there? Because we say that a lot down on the job. He said, I worked my tail off for this man. Well, there's nothing I wouldn't have done for him. He said, I can't think of anything. This man would have asked me to do it. I wouldn't have tried my best to do it. The greatest boss that ever lived. Anytime you mention the supervisor, John will start telling you about that one he had that time at Monaghan. Y'all, he hadn't even seen this man in 27 years. I found out he hadn't even seen this man in 27 years. And we're still talking about him like that. And I used to wonder, you know, what on earth? What great, wonderful thing had this boss done for John? And one night, he told me. John said his mother had died a long, lingering death with cancer. He had to be off a few times while she was sick. The first time he had to be off, he wasn't on Joe's job. Joe was the super boss, the one he worked his tail off for. But he wasn't on Joe's job the first time that he had to be out with his mother. The first time he was on Bill's job, another boss he liked pretty well. He said, night he came back, old Bill walked up to him in the plant and said, John boy, I sure am glad to see you back. So that job has been in the floor ever since you've been out. And I sure hope you don't have to be out anymore. So time went on now. John's been moved. Now he's on Joe's job. This super guy, the one he said he'd done anything for. He's on Joe's job now. He said his mama got worse. He had to be out with her for 2 or 3 nights. He said, Mildred, the night I came back, said old Joe was standing out on this little porch in front of the plant watching for me. He said, when I walked up the steps, he started down to meet me, and he stuck his hand out. He said, John, I'm glad to see you back, buddy, but listen, how's your mother? That's what he'd done for him, y'all. That's what he'd done for him. I worked my tail off with this man. There's nothing he could have asked me to do it. I wouldn't have tried to do it. The greatest boss that ever lived. That's what he'd done for him. How's your mother, John? Now listen, Bill liked John. Bill liked John. He saw John as a good employee. He missed him when he was off. But Joe saw John as a person, a hurting human being who was losing the best friend he was ever going to have on this earth, you know, his mother. He said, hey, John, I'm glad to see you back, but listen, how's your mama doing? Both of these bosses wanted the same thing out of John. They both wanted his energy. But Joe got it because he went through this door. Consider your employees' feelings on the job, and they will work their tail off for you.